Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and for years the Axis and mainstream medias have attacked any fan or any viewer who has ever criticized the Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who, and this is for a lot of reasons, calling them bigots, calling them racist, calling them sexist, saying that this era is good simply because of the diversity involved and nothing else matters. That is inherent value in their eyes. Even if the audience members were strictly talking about the writing involved, the characterization involved, not talking about the race or representation whatsoever, those fans were also grouped in with those who were a little worried about the diversity of it because of the method, motivation, and execution of the representation included. It's just a complicated issue that constantly got attacked by Axis and mainstream media, and it was getting ridiculous for years now. But there's this weird shift that's happening now that the era is over, and a lot of things that are in this article from the Junkie, which I will be going over, are things that we've been saying forever. Of course, they take it from a very, very woke perspective. But some of these things that they do mention were stuff that people like me were saying years ago, and we were called hateful bigots, racist, and sexist back when we said that. So maybe there is a shift coming. Maybe it's just woke on woke crime, and they don't see the irony of this position that they're taking. But this article here from the Junkie is one of the craziest things I have ever read in my life. I'm not familiar with the Junkie. I'd never heard of them before coming across this article. But this statement that they have is quite profound and quite a long-winded article. So I'm going to try to piece through it as best as I can. But it's called The Tokenism, Racism, and Unfunny Jokes, How Doctor Who Failed Its First Female Doctor. And at that base value, it's like, I can see where they're coming from. Maybe this is a good article. Maybe they're coming at it from a good perspective. But something interesting happened. It seems like they have changed the title of this article because under the Google search results, it actually comes up as How Doctor Who Failed Its First Female Doctor with White Feminism. That's the interesting part there with white feminism. Now, that is something that I do believe is a major issue with this era of the show, was the feminist nature of it and the anti-man perspective. But it was interesting that they included white feminism. That definitely led me to believe, just from this cursory title comparison, that there was some anti-white racism involved in this article, and boy was I proved correct. This is definitely one of the most insane pieces of literature I have ever read on the internet from the Axis or mainstream media sites. But it starts out real strong. Jodie Whittaker's tenure as the first woman to play the Doctor in Doctor Who is over. However, before Ncuti Gatwa makes his mark as the first black man to portray the Doctor, of course they're coming at it from, oh, woman, oh, black man. Is it a good character? Is it a good actor? Does this person have the experience to make them good for the role? Are they going to be good? That's all I care about. Now, I do believe that the Doctor should never become a woman. The Doctor is a man. That's just the character, and it's okay to stay the character that you always were. But with good writing and a good story arc and a lack of identity politics and all those terms that we've come to know and love, I could have been won over. I do believe I could have been won over. I wasn't. And as long as the Axis and mainstream media are, and the studios themselves are focused more on the labels than the actual quality and content of the story, there is always going to be this fight between the fans and these corporations. Before the first Black Doctor, we need to talk about how we completely failed Doctor Who's first female Doctor. It's interesting how they talk about how we completely failed the Doctor. That might be a fan perspective, just like attacking fans, and underhanded attacking fans. Not sure why they chose to do we in that sentence there, but this is when we really get into things. Why a woman playing the Doctor was a big deal at first, and this entire thing is just doing the backstory a little bit. I just wanted to point out that they call the Doctor they twice right here, and I'm not okay with that. The Doctor's not non-binary. The Doctor's not trans. The Doctor is a man. He, him. It's not that complicated. But of course, these days, the Doctor's a they, them, and it's so, whatever. So already at that point, I knew I was in for a treat. On paper, the fam, as they were referred to in the show, were the most diverse lead cast in the show's history. Not necessarily, because, yeah, there were other diverse individuals, like when Captain Jack was with Martha and the Doctor. That's pretty diverse. Maybe not in a racial standpoint, but we've got a gay man or an omnisexual man and a black woman and a white man. That's pretty diverse. The fam was just so many people that it came across as super diverse. But whatever, the fam was a terrible title for it, but regardless. This further stoked anticipation for this new era that promised to leave behind the show's typically white male-centric focus for New Horizons, which is perhaps why the letdown was so unbearable. So they're mad at Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker in that era for not being good enough to represent the diverse cast that was involved. Diverse cast is not a good thing. It is not of empirical value. Are the characters good? Is it good writing? That's all I and many other and the majority of fans cared about through all of this. Typical white male it's okay to have a main character who's white, man, and straight. It's not that hard, but they're just like, any white man is bad. We need to get rid of them. They're already coming at it from this perspective. And so that's why they're talking, it's so important for this diversity, and they're very mad about it not living up to their expectations. How Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker both fumbled the ball. Everything from misogyny, bad acting, poor writing, nostalgia bait, and the pandemic has been blamed for the Doctor's recent retreat from favor in popular culture. Those all were buzz terms that we would get canceled for years ago for saying that there was bad acting. Oh, you just hate women. Poor writing. Oh, you just hate black people. Nostalgia bait. That didn't come in season one. Her first season, that wasn't there in that one, but the subsequent ones definitely had that in it in a lot. In reality, the responsibility likely lies in a perfect storm of these factors, combined with the show's tendency to wax and wane in popularity. So they're admitting that bad acting, poor writing were big contributing factors. That is stuff that I have been criticized for saying in the past. For saying, oh, it's bad acting, oh, you're just racist. I've gotten those terms. Of course, it's okay for them now. Is this a narrative change, or is this them missing the irony of the woke on woke crime that they're participating in? Arguably, however, the Whittaker-Chibnall era has not suffering from external critics or even the impact of the pandemic, but a lack of self-awareness, interest, or even respect by Chibnall or Whittaker for the franchise. That's the important one there. That has been the core argument from fans against this era of the show, is that Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker clearly did not respect the franchise, that they didn't care about the franchise, and that's when we were called all the hateful names in the book. And they go into reference a few interviews between the two where there's like, oh, I never watched it, oh, I wanted to change it, and referencing these interviews were like alt-right red flags a couple of years ago. Talking about this quote in particular where Jodie Whittaker's like, oh yeah, I didn't see it. He told me not to watch it, so I've never seen any Doctor Who besides my own. We would have been called racist. We were called racist and sexist for saying this, referencing this interview years ago. Why is it different for the junkie? And they go on to talk about the tokenism and racism of the 13th Doctor's era. And this is some really gold stuff. This is woke on woke crime to the utmost. This is all stuff that we've said, this is all stuff that we've criticized, but they're coming at it from a very woke perspective. And so it's a little bit different, but still kind of funny to see it coming from them. So they're talking about the Joe Martin, a fugitive doctor, and it's a problem because this black woman invokes harmful stereotypes around blackness and criminality because she's forced to particularly in like a secret terrorist organization inside the Gallifreyan society. And so they're like, oh, you made the black woman work with terrorists? Oh, you're bad, you bad. I just don't want the Joe Martin Doctor to exist at all. William Hartnell is the first Doctor. There were 12 Doctors in total. Peter Capaldi was the last one. Anything outside of that is a problem for me. It's a big problem for me. But going on, they say relegating racism to something that Ryan would experiment almost exclusively in the past is reductive and ultimately suggests that we now inhabit a post-race utopia. There wasn't enough racism against Ryan in the show, so it's bad. You could have virtue signaled more. The Jodie Whittaker Chris Chibnall era, which is known for virtue signaling, didn't virtue signal enough. They're bad for that. We hate them because of that. They didn't live up to our standards of virtue signaling. Holy crap! They're attacking them for not having Ryan be attacked for his race more often. That's hilarious. And no, the show does not suggest that we live in a post-race utopia. Have you seen this era? To compound the tokenism and racism, Ryan's grandmother, Rosie, was this era's only other significant black woman character, and she was fridged in the series premiere. They called it fridging. It's not a fridge. She dies in a heroic death. That's not what fridging is. Fridging is such a nonsensical term, and it only applies when you don't like the diversity of the person getting fridged. Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru, Uncle Ben, those technically fridging by the definitions, but they're not diverse enough, so that it doesn't count. It doesn't count as fridging in that instance. But yeah, Rosie, some sort of heroic death. Oh yeah, she got fridged. You're not woke enough. I've never thought I would ever see the day when the Chris Chibnall Jodie Whittaker era would be called not woke enough. And they continue. As for Ryan's characterization, he was frequently written as incompetent, and he rarely showed any agency. That is something that I've said for years. That's something that we've all said for years. That is going to be the main theme in this video. Is this article is saying everything that we've said before. Different motivations for saying it, the more woke motivations, but they're still saying the same things that we've been saying for years and we were attacked in. I still don't know if this is a sign of the tide changing or maybe they're getting protected because they're coming at it from a woke perspective, but this is an interesting phenomenon to see such vitriol coming from a woke perspective against another woke. Woke on woke crime is the most intimidating thing out there, and I love to see it. And this is such a long article. I'm really trying to hurry through this. Subsequently, Yaz's queerness and crush on the Doctor were also underdeveloped. Tasmin wasn't enough. You aren't woke enough for us. And any meaningful consideration of how Yaz, a queer second-generation Muslim, would navigate how gay feelings for an alien never made it to the screen. The alien part is interesting because they want, like, the transracial or whatever, the sexuality you're attracted to non-humanoids is a big deal right now. Like furries, it's a big deal right now. But they're mad that right here they're talking about how they only developed her second-generation Muslim and her Pakistani Indian origin doesn't come up more than just that one episode. So like, you brought up that she was second generation Muslim only once. How dare you? It needs to be every single thing she says, just like the Ryan stuff. He needs to be attacked for his race every single time we see him. It's never enough. That's something that we say all the time with these woke people, these access and mainstream media sites, the Twitter mob, the Twitter freaks. It's never enough. And this is a perfect example of that. Yaz doesn't bring up in every conversation that she's second generation Muslim and queer in love with an alien. So it's not good enough. I still can't fathom how insane this article is. In a nauseating moment, bafflingly framed as heroic, Whitaker's doctor tricks the master into the hands of the Nazis to one-up him, utilizing her privilege as a white person to sentence a man of color to history's most notorious white supremacist regime. We called this out when it came out. At the beginning of season 12, the master is, he's not white, but he's using a perception filter to look white to the Yahtzees, and Jodie Whittaker turns off his perception filter, so the Yahtzees attack him. She weaponizes his race against him, and just like they're saying, it was framed as heroic, and we called that out as being extremely racist, but then we got called racist for calling that shit out. Finally, they're starting to realize the stuff that we've been saying. We called the Rosa episode very, very racist because it gave the import of Rosa Parks standing up, to a white woman. They had a white woman attack a man based on his privilege. They weaponized his race against him. This is all stuff that we've been saying. So yes, the white feminist perspective is not the perspective I would take about it. That's not the definition that I would call it. But this is all stuff that we've been saying. It's a little maddening, but very entertaining. If Whitaker's doctor was a feminist figure, she is one whose empowerment time and time again was built on the tokenism, infantilization, and dehumanization of characters of color. White feminism that exclusively centered around the benefit of white women. I've definitely noticed that. That is definitely, I hate the term white feminism, but it is relatively representative of an actual phenomenon that takes place that we call out, that we're called sexist for calling it out. So I guess they get to call it out, and that sucks. It's not worth celebrating. No matter how significant the role of a woman might be, it's also not feminism. A white woman is not feminist enough according to them. They're not feminist enough. This is woke on woke crime. It's going in progressive order. The diversity privilege is receding. We've seen that a lot recently, where black men have been called the new white men, and they can be attacked because they're black men, which is really weird from these woke people. And now white women, they're not women enough. You have to be a black woman, you have to be trans, you have to be gay, it's just getting progressively less and less. Minorities are shrinking upon themselves, getting their victimization to the 9th degree, and they're excluding people whose victimization does not match the extreme. And we called this out years ago. We knew this was going to happen, but it's hilarious to see, it's a woman in it, not feminist enough. God, there are undoubtedly bigoted fans who blame the existence of this diversity for the show's dip in quality, but that's putting the horse before the cart. I think it's putting the horse before the cart by you saying it's just bigoted fans that are saying stuff like that. There is a legitimate perspective from people who are saying that diversity was being weaponized, and that's the problem. And you calling them just bigoted for having a problem with that weaponization is putting the horse behind the cart as well. So you almost had a good point there, but you're just calling too many people bigoted and anyone who disagrees with the diversity involved as bigots. No, there is a nuanced approach to being critics of diversity. And they're just throwing that out the window, except for when it benefits them, as the rest of this article showed. It's just some good irony. Some good irony. Sadly, the greatest legacy of the Chibnall-Whittaker era is the surface level significance of its casting. But perhaps if they had taken what and who they represented a little more seriously, it might have not have been such a shallow and at times even harmful disappointment. I love that. This is woke on woke crime. This is attacking the Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall era more than a lot of people are willing to do. But they're doing it from the woke perspective, so it's all okay. Like, this is vitriol even beyond some of the stuff that I've done. And this person definitely seems like they have enough, representation to shield them from criticism of what may come out of this article. If they're called racist or sexist for having these perspectives from the article, they just say, oh, I'm a woman of color, so it's okay. And a they, them. Oh, my apologies. A they, them of color. So they have all the shield and all the privilege necessary in today's society to call out the Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who as being not woke enough. They have the privilege to do so, and it is just hilarious to see, and I can't wait to see if there's any fallout from this, and I just love to see the Chris Chibnall, Jodie Whittaker era attacked for rightful reasons, maybe for wrong motivations, but rightful reasons, even if it's coming from a person and a perspective like this. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.